All right, we're gonna do some sun salutations and then work on crow pose. So this is your 18-minute class today, and we've got a lot to do. It'll be fun. Let's start in child's pose. Take a deep inhale here. And exhale. Walk the hands over to the right side. Lean that left hip away. Come on back to center. Walk the hands on over to the other side. Lean that right hip away. This always feels good. Some lateral movement before we start moving front to back. And back to the center. So remember your perfect lever length. So you're starting in child's pose. We're going to push and inhale, lift up to a tabletop. Bring the hips down. Exhale onto the belly. Keep the elbows together. Inhale. Push through the hands. And exhale. Push and inhale. Exhale. Inhale, lift. Push through the hands, scoop the belly, and exhale. So this is not a warm-up. Push and inhale, lift up. This is really about getting those currents activated so that you can utilize them in crow pose or whatever else you're doing after sun salutations. So we're opening and closing the body. Inhale. Exhale. Push through the hands and inhale so that kind of activates that downward current. Exhale here. Push through the shins and inhale. So we're connecting the breath with the movement, not initiating the movement with the breath. We're just connecting it. Inhale. And exhale. Start to lift the pelvic floor, that subtle, energetic support system. Like if you had to stop peeing right about now. So we're just waking up all of the currents, upward and downward current, and the horizontal current of giving and receiving with each breath. Let's do a couple more of these. Round the back. This is what you want to find in your crow pose anyway. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. So let's take a breath here. Child's pose to me is the same as crow pose. When we're in crow, we've got the connection between the thighs and the belly. So I like to think of it as balasana utplutahi, like an uprooted child's pose. All right. So just focus on this shape for a moment. This is what we're going to work on finding here when we balance on our hands in a few minutes. But let's go ahead and do a little less modified version of our sun salutations. Lift the hips, tuck the toes, and come into down dog. So let's just walk in place, move the hips side to side. And take that left leg straight up behind you. Keep the shoulders level. Let the shoulders move up and around the ears here. And bring that foot down right where it started. And then we'll take that right leg straight up. Keep the shoulders level. Get those shoulders up and around the ears. So it's more about integration than it is about stretching. Using the whole body. Good. Pull that foot right back into place. Good job. And then inhale forward to a plank position. You can bring the knees down if you want to for kind of that same version that we did. Exhale onto the belly. Inhale. And we'll exhale to down dog or just inhale to a plank position. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, up dog, and then exhale. So as modified as you want to make it or not, right? So you can inhale forward, maybe come down onto the belly here. Inhale, lift the thighs. And then exhale, go ahead and just sit on the heels. Good. So let's go ahead and we're going to lie on the back and just play around with what it should feel like in the belly when we are in crow pose. So just go ahead and swing those legs around. And lie on the back. Bring the knees to the chest here and the arms up overhead and start to lift up. So you want to think about you're delivering the belly up to the thighs here. All right, if that's hard on the neck, you can just use a hand to support it. Stay here. If your knees are here, that's great. You just have to lift up a little bit higher. And come on down. And lift, delivering the belly to the thighs. All right. Nice. Now both hands up overhead with the head on the mat. And now you're going to pull the thighs up to meet the belly. So now you're finding it in the low belly versus the upper belly. It should feel a little bit different. You can keep your head on the mat, easier on the neck, arms up just a little bit. And use that low belly to pull up. That is literally what crow is going to feel like. If you feel this in your low guts, transverse abdominal muscles, low belly, that's where crow is going to come from. Let's do that again. Pull. And release. That's awesome. This time, now take the hands straight up toward the ceiling, just like you would be in a crow pose. Anyway, now you want to try to deliver the knees up to the back of the arms, maybe all the way up into the armpits. This is going to really be indicative of what your crow is going to look like and feel like when you're balancing on the hands, all right? So now you're pulling your knees up, hopefully right up into the armpits. Now when you're here, pull the inner thighs toward each other. And go ahead and release. We'll do that a few more times. Pull them up. Touch the backs of the arms. Pull the inner thighs toward each other. And release. Good. This should not feel good in any way, but it should feel effective. So we're going to do that one more time. Pull them up. So now it's a really slow, controlled movement. Crunch it, get those knees all the way up into the armpits if you can, and then pull the inner thighs toward each other. That inner thigh pull toward each other, that's what's going to give you all of that lift once you're balancing on the hands. You lift, it's not upper body strength. You're going to be on the backs of your arms, pull the inner thighs toward each other, and that gives you all this lift. All right, so let's learn it here. So knees, inner thighs. Good. Okay, so you can this feels really good after all of that. A little windshield wiper. And then roll on up. And we'll go ahead and play around with crow pose here. Okay, so just like child's pose, right? So this crow pose is all about the relationship between the thighs and the belly. The upper body strength will come over time the more you do this. You can't go do something to get strong in order to do crow pose. It just doesn't work that way. We get strong we build into poses. We build that strength into poses, just like we stretch into movements. So it's kind of that same concept. This is why crow will stay with you for the rest of your life without trying. once you kind of approach it from this direction of building strength, you know, as you are in the pose, you're moving into the strength of this shape specifically, all right? So you can take your hands wider than you normally would. I'll turn this way. You can start with your hands super wide and let's just see what it feels like lifting the feet up off of the floor. So my knees are super wide, hands are really wide. Don't worry about what it's supposed to look like. You can lift one foot up and then another foot and just kind of teach the feet that they're eventually going to have to be off of the floor, all right? We'll do that again. My feet, I want you to keep your feet hip width apart and you just kind of lean into this. Keep the gaze forward. You've got a nice wide base here to just kind of hang out in this shape. And we're going to start to play around with getting the knees closer now. So now I've got my feet hip width apart. I'm going to plant my hands shoulder width apart. Lift high up onto the toes, that same delivery idea like we were doing on the back. So just lift way up onto the toes, deliver the knees way up onto the backs of the arms, and maybe all the way up into the armpits. All right? That's all you're going to do here. You might feel like this is challenging to bend the toes this much. The higher you get your heels up off of the mat, the better. You might feel like this is really challenging to get the knees without dropping the butt down, but that's the whole key to winning here is to get the heels really high. If this is challenging, then great. Then that's what we want. We want a little bit of a challenge. Having everything easy isn't good for us. So just scooping that belly, look for that child's pose kind of shape. See that? That's what we're looking for here. Thighs to the belly, just like child's pose. All right? Now keep the heels lifted nice and high. Now you're going to keep the knees into the armpits. Pick one foot up. There's not a lot of weight on the hands. Bring that foot down. And then we'll pick that other foot up. No weight. Keep the knee into the armpit, okay? Scoop that belly. And bring that foot down. That should feel just like that stuff we did on the back. That same compression in the belly, that same activation should feel exactly the same. If you're expecting the upper body to do all of the work, forget about it. Pull all of that awareness into the low belly, in and up, and holding it all together, okay? Good, so let's go ahead and do that again. Feet hip width apart, knees hip width apart. So you're delivering everything into that position right here. I'm going to pick my left foot up and bring that down. Nice round back, push, and you've got lots of space between the shoulder blades, a lot of things to think about. And bring that foot down, okay? So the great thing about learning crow pose, the longer it takes to learn something, the longer it's going to stay with you. If you get it super quick and you want to just do it and get it over with and get it done and learn it, it may not last. It may not go the distance. We want everything that we learn in yoga, you want to be doing it for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, okay? Serious. Okay, so let's go ahead and come back to that wide hand position, all right? So I've got my hands a little bit wider. And so we're just kind of moving back and forth here, experimenting with different dynamics. So now we're going to take the hands wider, my knees are a little bit wider, and now when I come into this balance here, now I want you to pull the inner thighs toward each other. All right, you're going to feel that lift, that nice round back. It's going to lift the hips up and hold them there. All right, so let's do that again. Maybe you want to bring your hands a little bit closer. Lean forward, keep the gaze forward. Maybe pick the feet up, pull the inner thighs toward each other. You can keep one foot down for balance. but I want you to focus on everything happening right here. Pulling the belly in, pulling the thighs toward each other. Watch my back when I'm lifting. My hands are wide, I'm leaning forward. I'm gonna keep one toe on the mat just so you can see that that's still okay. It's still crow pose. And now I'm gonna pull the belly in and pull my thighs toward each other. That just makes me wanna lift my foot up. All right, I'm gonna keep that gaze forward. Let's take one little break and then we'll do it one more time. You are absolutely killing it. This isn't a pose that is, out of your realm. This is for first time beginner yoga students for sure, okay? All right, let's do it again. My hands are wider than I normally do it because it's more comfortable. All right, I'm gonna try to keep my knees in line with my arms instead of way out to the side. It'll just be easier to pull the thighs toward each other. Look how far forward my gaze is. I may keep one foot on the mat just for safety. Pull the belly in. Pull the thighs toward each other. My foot has to lift. Pull everything. Maybe even pull the feet up closer to your buns. Are you starting to feel that dynamic of really where this pose is going to come from? It's all going to come from the front of the body, creating that dynamic that holds you up and lifts you up, right? So that over time, your arms might be super straight and you're right there. Okay? Nice work. Let's go ahead and lie on the back. Bring the knees to the chest. Drop them on over to the right side. Keep that left shoulder grounded. And we'll take that twist on over to the other side. Nice. And bring the knees back to center. Slide the feet away from you. Just take a deep inhale here. Great work. All right, I'll see you guys in the next 18-minute challenge class.